let's get this party started. We're here today to begin work on the Ferrari swap into this lovely 914 chassis. And it is an almost ready to go GT flared, all steel, steel flared rockers, steel flared balances, lovely, lovely everything. Lovely panel gaps, fabulously attractive. You may have noticed something unusual about the car, and that is, look at these panel gaps, oh my gosh, so exciting. It's factory paint to sample raspberry from 1972, if you can believe that. Somebody paid extra in 1972 to have this car painted raspberry. No, it's not pink. Everybody wants to call it pink. It's not pink. It is raspberry. And it is the coolest color. Maybe not the best color for a Ferrari swap, but guess what? I think it's going to stay this color. Anyway, and there's the lovely, lovely, lovely engine. Pardon the spare Boxer transaxle. This place is always a little bit of a mess with various and sundry projects going on. A little plasma table action, a little fixturing table stuff, and way too much junk. But it's all going to be great because it's all going to be about getting this thing into that thing. We're going to start today by clearancing the trunk and not taking all of it out, but taking out just enough to be able to get the engine and trans in. And I think I'm going to try to keep an abbreviated trunk back here, kind of like, you know, for a set of golf clubs size thing. We shall see. Wish me luck. We're going in. Well, room for a Ferrari drivetrain. Woohoo! So that was about 20 minutes of slicing and dicing, as they say, and what we're left with is what we suspect is a first cut. Aren't I funny? At the clearance needed. So I decided to leave this rear section of the trunk and preserve this portion of the cutout and maybe sort of slice, you know, along the base here at some point and put in the factory sheet metal, you know, kind of right in here and have like a little, as I mentioned, like a little golf club sized trunk, you know, carry a soft bag, weekender capability. So try to preserve at least a little bit of luggage storage space. Obviously getting the drivetrain to fit is the critical component, and if that means we don't have any luggage, well then that's no more luggage space. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I hope later today to have the drivetrain up on the jack assembly and get a rough fit in there and see exactly how much more clearance we need to do. This is the jack contraption that I mentioned, and all I did was take one of those kind of ATV lawnmower motorcycle jacks and made this extension contraption that supports both the engine and transmission. This is set up for my Boxster LS setup with the crossbar capturing area there so the thing can't move around. But with one minor shim added, it works for the Ferrari setup, and it's kind of nice because you can, as you can imagine, you know, when you're jacking it up, it just parallelograms itself and keeps everything at the same level and makes it super easy to get completely assembled drivetrains in and out of the chassis. So anyway, there you go, the jack contraption. Okay, well that's not a bad day's work. About another hour to get the thing put in place, and here's sort of put in place. So couple things. We knew this was a first attempt, and I knew it would be close. I didn't think it was going to be this close, unfortunately. So you can see that the factory trans hanger is going to interfere with the 914 factory crossbar, and it's also going to need, so that'll need to be notched if I retain it. And the floor directly behind it back in here is getting dangerously close to the top of the transmission, so I suspect that if this whole thing were notched, we'd be okay. And then the other issue is the cam belt gears are going to run into the firewall without some kind of clearancing, at least in the current position. Motor's got to go up about 2 inches from this location. But the really good news is if you look at the axle angle, it's kind of hard to do from here, but you can see if I kind of line everything up with the differential case and you look straight across, I've got room to go forward or backwards and still be completely in range for CV angles with no problem. So that part's great. Now it's just a matter of starting to make room for things and make decisions about, do I want the motor to go a little bit farther forward or a little bit farther backwards? Obviously forward would be better for weight distribution, but do I want to notch the firewall and worry about seat clearance and all that other stuff? So there's just some decisions to be made, but that's the fun part about this kind of thing. So there you go. Day one of the Ferrari in the 914 project. You notice how that thing looked kind of small in there? That motor looks a little bit like there's a ton of room. Well, there was one thing I forgot, and that was the intake manifold. Suddenly, not so much room. Look at that size of that thing. And again, it's still in the gotta go up 2 inches position. And obviously, there's gonna need to be some clearancing of the deck lid. That'll provide an opportunity to come up with some interesting styling choices. The goal is that the plan is not to cut the intake down. You might have seen Home Built by Jeff, and he's putting this same motor in his Alpha, and in order to not have a giant bulge in his hood, he did a really nice job of sectioning these and knocking, I think he said about 70 millimeters out to lower this down. I kind of don't want to do that, just because I think it'd be epically cool to be able to see the plenums poking up through the engine lid and part of the trunk, but that's just me. Everything's a plan at this point until we start knowing what can and can't work, but that's the goal anyway. But boy, oh boy, does that look cool.